What's good? What's good? We are back. Another episode of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more. I got a special guest coming in all the way from the UK. He's about to fight this October 12th at Marbella, Spain for the BKFC. And you can watch that on the Zone if I'm not mistaken. He has an 8-2-1 record in pro bare knuckle. Let's bring him on, James Lights Out Lilley.
How we doing, bro? You okay?
I'm doing good. How about you, man?
Yeah, I'm getting there, mate. I'm getting there.
Yeah, I know it's a little late out there. Y'all like 5 hours ahead of us, so I won't try to take up too much of your time.
Yeah, no worries, man. No worries.
So I want to start here. Says your father, Darren Lilley, was a boxer, and you were around the sport your whole life. At what age did you decide you kind of wanted to follow in the footsteps?
It was a bit later in life, to be honest. Well, not later in life, later in my youth. I was into kung fu and sort of karate when I was younger, but I wasn't very good at it. And I just walked into a boxing gym when I was about 12, and I never looked back. I fell in love with the sport and really got a bug for it, and it completely changed sort of the person I am. It was a big part of my identity. But yeah, I'd say around 12, 13 years old.
Yeah, I think all kids were into kung fu. I wanted to be a ninja when I was a kid.
Yeah, I used to watch Power Rangers like every morning, and it was just on the TV all the time. So kung fu was the first thing I tried, but I'm not very good at kicking shit. So tried to enter boxing, and fell in love with the sport.
Now, growing up around boxing at an early age, you think that kind of gave you a head start into it?
Yeah, to you know, I like the sport. I didn't really kind of click with it until I was like in 12 and 13. But when I was always around the sport, like my father, one of his favorite fights is Ali and Foreman, the Rumble in the Jungle, and I can always remember he'd always like watch replays of it. So yeah, I was always around the sport. And I'm a big history buff, so at some points in history are marked with boxing, and they go hand in hand. So yeah, I'm very sort of I had like book smarts about boxing and history as well. So yeah, it definitely gave me some sort of insight into the sport before I got into it.
Now, what can you tell us about your MMA career?
MMA was like something that I probably should have given more discipline to in sort of the
Okay.
regards of grappling. I moved like I was I was on a bad spot in boxing where I couldn't get pro boxing fights, and there's a lot of politics in with the boxing, with trying to get fights and having to fight away from home. So MMA started like emerging as a sport. So one of my friends who actually fought in the UFC said, "Oh, why don't you come and try it?" And I did. I had some success with it, but I think because I had this sort of mindset of keep it on the feet, I didn't really give the ground game enough respect. And it was only until I sort of got older that I started respecting it. But by then, MMA had evolved, and the kids now, they're in a gym where it's got like wrestling, judo, kickboxing all in one gym. Whereas when I was coming through, you'd have to go from this gym to do wrestling, go to
Okay.
another gym to do it. So I think the kids coming through today, they're much more well rounded. You've got actual MMA gyms now rather than having like a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu gym, and then a freestyle wrestling gym. It's all under one roof. So I think the kids coming through today, they're light years ahead of sort of the guys I was around.
I never knew that. So it seems like it would make it more expensive to learn everything too, because you got to pay different trainers, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like when I first started in MMA, there was only one sort of place really you could go to in my town which done Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. We'd go to like a boxing club for boxing.
Mm,
You'd have to go somewhere else then for sort of like kickboxing. So yeah, you're paying three different clubs there. And those are just three aspects of sports. Like, as you know now, you've got like, wrestling, judo, everything's sort of, there's some gyms that don't teach sort of one discipline. They just teach MMA as a, as a discipline itself, and just bring everything into it. And that's the way I think the gyms are going now, and that you can see the difference with how the athletes are competing in UFC.
Now you had a few fights in the BKB, which is a bare knuckle promotion based out of the UK. What was that experience like for you?
I thought I only thought I was going to have sort of one fight with them. To be honest, I said I was
No.
not really getting up to much with sort of MMA and boxing. So bare knuckle started growing as a sport in the UK, and I contacted the promoters of BKB thinking I'll have one fight to say, I've done it.
Yeah.
And then again, I just got like, hooked. Um, did and no, I'm 11 fights in now, fought for world titles, travel the world a bit. So yeah, it's probably one of the best decisions I made. I had a good experience with BKB, and BKFC for me was the next step in my career to get to where I am basically. But yeah, it was a good experience. I just never thought, if you told me 5 years ago I'd be where I am now, I would have laughed at you, man. That's crazy shit, man.
Now, what made you make the move into the BKFC?
I'd seen I'd seen quite a few um of the American fighters. Like I like Chris Lytle fought on the BKB, and I'd seen him go with the BKFC, and I was quite intrigued by the ring. I liked the way they did the production. So I was speaking to someone on Twitter for a couple of years, but obviously I was under contract and everything else. And then an opportunity came up, and I thought, make the leap now. I think I was 35 years old at the time, so I knew, I didn't have that many years left. So I thought, grasp this chance with both hands, and said like this is one of the best decisions ever made. A lot of people were saying, oh, stay with the UK guys, do what, stay with the guys, and I just wanted to try something new and experience it for myself. And I said like BKFC, it's one of the best things I've ever done.
Do you kind of look up to Chris Lytle with y'all having the same fight name?
Yeah, it's funny because one of the first UFC fights um, I ever watched was Chris Lytle versus I forget the guy's name, the Irish hand grenade. I think it's Bren or something. And I can always remember that fight. It was a great stand-up war, and yeah, and then Chris Lytle came over to sort of bare knuckle, and he's a great guy. I know him quite well now, being
Yeah.
on a number of shows, and he's a top guy. He's always got time for you, and he's a legend of the sport. So yeah, it is probably someone I like, aspire to be like in my career.
Yeah, he's definitely a class act human being, man. I mean, one of the most decent human beings I've ever interviewed in my lifetime. I know that much.
Yeah, he's a great
Now
guy, and
you
he's a firefighter.
yep. Definitely lifetime firefighter. So you fought Tyler Goodjohn, and it seems like you executed the game plan. And what was the game plan going into that fight?
Yeah, Tyler is probably my best performance, and I think he was probably the biggest name on my resume at the time. He was probably one of the breakout stars from the UK. Um,
Hmm.
Fought some great guys, and I knew I had to be on my A game to fight him because of the relentless pressure. But we knew my movement, was superior to his. He's got some other skills that are probably better than mine, but it was all about skills and not skills. Sorry, it was all about movement in that fight. And yeah, it just everything came off of me that night. It was, it's, as I said, it was, I couldn't have asked for a more perfect game plan, and just did everything from the off. Sharp, short combos, moving, getting out the way, not holding my feet. It's it's the best I've ever fought, to be honest. And if I could fight anyone in that time period, I'd beat them all.
Now you also fought Palomino, and that one went all 5 rounds as well. No knockdowns on either side. What do you think it? Why was it so hard for either side to get a knockdown? You think?
I think our styles cancelled each other out. We're both quite like back foot fighters. Um, and yeah, we didn't really gel, which was really disappointing because it didn't make for a great fight to watch. In there it was a
Hmm.
really hard fight. He was laying traps, I was laying traps, but to watch for the fans is probably not what they expected from a bare knuckle fight. But he was really hard to pin down. I didn't expect him to be as slippery and as his ring generalship as good as it was. And he's one of the best I've ever been in with. Probably is the best ever been in with. He was so slick and hard to pin down. And because I fight sort of on the back foot as well, that's why we didn't gel, and probably why a couple of people were disappointed in the fight. You watch bare knuckle fights, you see guys like Mike Perry sit standing there, and the dog. But it was just one of those fights. It was a great experience, and it was a close fight too.
Now, I mean, going 5 rounds with somebody like Palomino, who I mean, I got a picture of him right here next to Chris Lytle. Um, I mean, doesn't it kind of at least validate that you belong in this sport, man? When you go 5 rounds with a guy like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. He was considered the number one pound for pound for a long time. Double champion. He's a great guy. He's an MMA legend as well. I remember watching some of his fights a few years back. But yeah, it definitely validated that I belonged at the top of the sport. And I just need now to get a win back to get back on track and get myself back in the rankings. But yeah, fighting Palomino definitely validated. Um, everyone saying I was like one of the best lightweights in the world. Yeah, definitely.
Now, was that match for the title?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Now, how hard do you think? Like, it seems like a BKFC when you get a title shot, it's gonna be not so easy to get back to that title shot. What do you think it's gonna take?
Well, the two guys who are fighting for the vacant title next week, I lost to one of them, and it was a close fight. So if he wins and I win, there could be an appetite for a rematch there. But
Yeah.
you can't really predict what's going to happen in these fights. With the other fights in divisions. So I just know I need to get myself back on track with a win. And I want to get busy. So get a win next week. I don't want to get out in December or January, February at the latest, and just get the momentum back going. I am got a long time left in the sport. I'm 37 now. So I just want to get some couple of quick wins, get myself back with the rankings, and then we'll hopefully get another run at the title.
Yeah, 37 seems like a young age in bare knuckle. I mean, you got Houston Alexander's like 52, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's more my family more than anything. My kids have only ever
Hmm.
known me as a fighter. They're
Okay.
getting older now, so they're noticing when I'm not there. They're noticing, this week I'm a bit grouchy because obviously I'm cutting my food down. I got the fight on my mind constantly, so I think I owe it to them, not to be in the sport too much longer. That's not to say I'm thinking of quitting anytime soon, but I owe it to them. They're getting older now. They need me round a bit more. So we'll see what happens in the next couple of fights, and then we'll make a decision there. It's I don't feel old. I feel my body now and again, but I think I still got a good 5 6 years left in me. But it all depends on how my family. They're the most important thing to me.
I noticed that about a lot of BKFC guys. Y'all really big on the family and whatnot. When I interviewed Jake Lindsay, that's all he was talking about his future wife and kids and future wife and kids and whatnot. So let me ask you about Franco. How you pronounce that? Tenaglia? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Tenaglia, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Tenaglia. Now,
Tenaglia.
when you were fighting him, I mean, the whole first round, you pretty much had the advantage. and then he caught you with a left. Did you? I mean, were you still on the game plan then, or do you think you kind of like went in a little too much on him?
Yeah, I took my eye off the ball. I think because I was having so much success, I threw out like a lazy right hand, and I knew, looking back, I knew I'd thrown it slow, and was overreaching for it, and then instead of like moving my head out the way, I leant back. It was just a mistake. I don't know if that was because I'd had 6 months off, or sorry, more than that. Sorry, 8 months off from my last fight. Um, but yeah, I thought I was bossing it, and then it took me a round to get back into it. So I can't really argue that he got the win. I think I would have forced a draw or a deciding round, but it is what it is, man. I don't cry over spilt beans. I just know I need to dust myself off and get back in there.
Was there any panic after you got knocked down?
Um, I was more annoyed than anything because my wife doesn't usually come watch me fight. She
Oh,
she doesn't like to watch me fight, but she'd been to a couple. She managed to sneak down and get front row seats, and then I got knocked on my ass. So I was like, "Fuck, my wife's watching this," so I had to get up. And I was more annoyed than anything because I haven't been knocked down as a pro like that, like knocked off my feet. So I was more annoyed, and I knew I was behind then. So it was I wouldn't say it's a panic, but it was more like, fuck, we gotta go to work, we gotta get out of this guy now. So it probably put me on edge a little bit. But yeah, it was a weird feeling.
now how much do you know about your opponent, Felipe de Silva Maya?
I met him when I was in Bulgaria. I cornered a guy in BKFC Bulgaria. He's a lovely guy, full of character. He's a big guy for the weight, and he's been in two really exciting fights in his BKFC career. And he's going to bring it, and I think we're going to gel well. It's going to be a good fight. There's no bad blood. I'm never one to be looking for to hurt my opponent. It's business at the end of the day, and he's a lovely guy. But this is something I need. I need this win to get myself back up there. So, and he's in the way, unfortunately.
Now, when you fought Palomino, I meant to ask you, like y'all were basically the main event on that. How did that feel at that time?
Being a main event in Miami, coming from a little city in Wales, the other side of the world, it was berserk. Walking around the Hard Rock casino, having people stop me for photos, seeing there was a poster on the wall. I think LL Cool J was playing, Guns N' Roses was playing another week, and then there was my poster. So that was surreal. That's probably one of the best moments of my life. Um, and it was just great. The whole production, the whole event. The whole place is just insane. It was like a movie, man. It was great. And I can't thank BKFC enough for giving me the chance and the opportunity to fight for them.
Now, this card is going to be a stacked one. Is this probably going to be the most stacked card you fought on?
Yeah, it's definitely up there. The whole thing is kind of gone from being just a normal fight card to an event. You've got obviously McGregor's going to be there. He's
Yeah,
bringing over some of the guys he signed to his record label with Exhibit and Dizzy Rascal and Bones, Fugs and Harmony. So the
yeah.
whole thing is just going to be like a wild event. People could be going there just to see some of these music artists rather than the fights. The whole thing to me is I can't really comprehend, how big an event it's going to be, and I think it could push BKFC more into the mainstream than it already is.
Yeah, they seem like these cards are just like these events are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I mean, Sturgis was pretty packed, you know. We know the Seminole Hard Rock Cafe is always packed. That's why they definitely milking that spot as much as they can. But this is
Yeah,
gonna be in a bull arena, man. I mean, that's gonna be crazy. Like, cause a lot of people are gonna be looking straight down on the fight.
yeah. It looks like the old
Now,
Roman Colosseums. It looks
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So you fight two separate weight classes, correct?
I've only fought at 155 in BKFC, but to be honest, I one of them this is a catchweight fight, and I fought Bobby Taylor like a couple of pounds over the limit as well. So I I can go down. I should be fighting at 145, but we haven't had any offers, so we'll just stick at the 155 at the minute.
So do you got a so that's the one that you're trying to really try to get the title in is 155 class?
Yeah, but like I said, if they give me if they say your next fight's at 145 in December, we can do 145 in December. It's no problem. It's just we haven't had any opportunity to come up. I'm happy to do either weight. It's just we've had quite a good success at 155. Um, and I'm not the greatest person with diets outside of camp. I like burgers, I like pizzas, I like fried chicken. It's I'm one of them type of people. So, but yeah, we can definitely try. I'd like to fight someone at 145. Just to see what it's like to be the bigger guy.
Yeah, I like all three of those things you named: burgers, fried chicken, and I definitely
uh,
eat a lot of pizza.
I
Um,
love pizza, man.
yeah. Now, what would you say is the biggest difference in your opinion between fight promotions like BKB and BKFC?
I think BKFC. Um, I think it's the closest thing I'd ever get to like fighting in the UFC. Like everything's the
Okay.
way it's run. It's the production, the team, and they've got the same team. The guys I met the first time I went out and fought for them. They've always been there. So the commentators, the cutsmen, the doctors, um, you know, Kevin Smith, who's a manager and also works for BKFC. There's loads of guys there who I'm familiar with now. I've seen them in a couple of different countries. It's just the whole production. BKFC seems to do it bigger than anyone else, and it's very professionally run. It's a fine tuned machine, and you can see they're getting better. And now that they've brought someone in like Conor McGregor, and I think it's just gonna push it up to another level again. And he can bring in his experience from being in massive fights. And I think it just needs. I don't think it's far off being UFC level. Probably just needs a couple more tweaks, and it's gonna blow up. And says it's the best organization I fought for.
Yeah, I'm hearing a lot of that. That it can be as big as the UFC, but its own sport. It's definitely leading the way in bare knuckle. And so you would say like BYB, BKB, they need to probably step up their production and how the event looks.
Well, I've never fought for BYB or been involved with the crossover shows or the purchase, and they seem to be getting better. They've got a huge roster of fighters now. They're doing more and more shows in smaller venues and bigger venues, so they're catching up too. It's there's not going to. I think they'll catch up eventually. I said it's only I'm only thinking about the positives that it's bringing to bare knuckle. It's two different rule sets, two different sports, lots of guys, lots of events. There's no bad news about it.
Now, what can we expect October 12th when you fight Felipe del Silva Maya in Marbella, Spain, in a bullfighting arena, man?
I'm gonna put a show on. There's gonna be lots of eyes on me. I've let two opportunities slip me by. So listen, I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I've done everything right. My diet's been on point. My training's been on point. My sparring's been on point. I'm going to be devastated. I'm going to be the lights out you saw back with Tyler Goodjohn or with Bobby Taylor. I'm gonna be mean. I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to show the Spanish crowd what I'm all about, and get myself back into the world title picture. It's going to be a devastating performance for me.
I mean, listen to those names that you fought, even the ones you lost. I mean, no, you had a really tough fight schedule early on in BKFC. I think more tougher than most, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and I quite like that, to be honest, because I didn't want to kind of tread water and fight, guys who were coming from being influencers and shit. I want to, the thing I want in my life is I want to fight the killers. I want someone to say that James Lilley, he's fought loads of really good fighters, and that's all I ever wanted. And BKFC gave me the opportunity, and I did well against all the guys they put me in. So I know it's just going to be hard fights, which is what I want. I don't want to. It gets me up in the morning. It's what when my alarm goes off at 4:30 for me to get out and running. So it motivates me and drives me on. I don't want easy fights. I want someone to look on my resume at the end and go, "Fuck, he's had some good fights."
Now, one thing I noticed is some of these fighters, it could be over a year and a half before they fight. What's the typical amount of fights that you think y'all should be fighting so y'all don't get too rusty?
It's got to be minimum of twice a year, I'd say.
Twice a year?
Yeah, but bare knuckles a bit different because it's easier to pick up injuries with your hands, and if you get a cut in boxing, you can still go to the gym and punch a bag. But with bare knuckle, I find with the knuckles, your knuckles hurt more than they do in boxing or MMA. So yeah, twice a year minimum. I'd like to fight, 3 times a year, but it all depends on injuries and then the fights. Yeah, but you got to have at least 2 a year.
And what kind of advice would you give newcomers into the sport?
I would just say be ready all the time. You never know when an opportunity is going to come. If you get someone on the phone saying, "Can you fight this guy on this date?" and you're ready, just say yes. I think too many people these days are a little bit worried about losing and the money. I think if you just take opportunities, you can get to that level. I've taken fights. Palomino, I had like 3 weeks notice. Bobby
Okay.
Taylor, yeah, Bobby Taylor, they phoned me just after Christmas and said, "Can you get ready?" So I just think it's just being ready and just being saying yes. I don't want to pick and choose my fights. I'm happy to fight anyone. I think that's what they know you're reliable then, and you'll get more work and you'll get bigger and better fights.
Yeah, it seems like the fight game is like everything else. There is politics that come into play that kind of mess up the sport sometimes, and
Yeah,
I'm like
it's
you. I think just the best fighters should fight the best fighters.
yeah, and it's great when you sign with one company like BKFC or UFC, for example. Like you see boxing, there's a lot of different promoters involved. It takes ages to make the best fights. When you sign for one company, if the boss says, right, you got to fight this guy, just say yes, and they'll know you're reliable and your game. So you get the work and get the paychecks.
Now, I noticed y'all they're gonna be back in the you definitely ain't gonna be fighting at the UK event, but will you be out there showing support?
I think they got two
I think it's
coming
at
up in the
Newcastle.
winter. Yeah, Newcastle's on the 2nd of November. I believe I'm away for that one, but I heard there's going to be another show in December or January. I can't remember which one, but I'll be definitely at that one. But I think I'm gonna miss Newcastle. It's an 8-hour drive from
Oh
from
man.
yeah, we haven't got planes like you guys. You haven't got little planes jumping everywhere. So so I'm gonna have to miss this one.
Yeah, y'all don't. And I was talking to somebody today, man. Y'all don't get hurricanes or nothing like that over there, do y'all?
No, a little bit of rain. That's it, really.
Yeah, that sounds okay right there. Just a little bit of rain here and there.
Yeah, we're quite
Before we
lucky.
let you go, anybody you want to shout out, like sponsors or anything?
Um, I gave but I gave my team praise on a podcast the other day, and I want to re-praise them again. It's the end of camp. They put in the hours in the gym just as much as me. 4:30 starts. 9 p.m. finishes. Coming sparring. So Dio and Josh Kagan and James Wallace. I want to give them a big shout. My sponsors, I got Precision Group, PM Financial, JMW Heating. There's a couple of others as well. Denny's UK. They've been with me for many years, and these kind of fights don't happen without them. So big shout out to them. I've probably forgot a few, so if you jump on my my Instagram page, you'll see them on there. That's probably the best.
Well, man, I appreciate you taking time out, man. You're a friend of the show. You're more than welcome to come on. I'm gonna be rooting for you this
Thank you very much.
Saturday. I can't wait to see what this event's gonna look like. And I wish you all the best, man, going forth in the future, man.
Thank you very much for having me on, man. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, we'll keep in touch and we'll hook up after the fight.
Yeah, anytime you post anything, I'll make sure to like, comment, share, all that good stuff, man.
Thank you very much, man. It means a lot.
All right, enjoy your night, man.
And you too. Cheers, brother. Thank you.
All right, peace. Well, there you have it. James Lights Out Lilley has the same fight name as Chris Lights Out Lytle right here. He'll be fighting in Marbella, Spain this Saturday. And he's fighting Felipe da Silva Maya in a bullfighting arena in Marbella, Spain, October 12th. You can watch that on the Zone Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. And I mean, as you heard, he's done fought a lot of tough guys already in BKFC. He fought Tyler Goodjohn, bloodied him up, won that, went for all 5 rounds with that, 5 rounds with Luis Palomino, another guy right here. Definitely a legend in bare knuckle sports and MMA in general. And, depending on who wins between Tony Loco Soto and Franco Tenaglia, he might be looking for a title shot here soon. We'll see. I mean, he's 8-2-1 in pro bare knuckle, which is a hell of a lot better record than most. I can tell you that much. And a lot of people can't say they got 11 bare knuckle fights under their belt. And like he said, he's only 37 years old, and that's young in bare knuckle age. I mean, you got guys like Houston Alexander, which I got a text here real soon to try to set up an interview. I mean, he's 52. So, yeah. Well, once again, I want to thank y'all for tuning in. Another episode of the Paul Pickett Podcast, aka Triple P, aka the Common Sense Podcast, your source for music, sports, politics, world events, and much, much more.